All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's AWS live session. Today, we're going to be covering AWS cloud computing innovation. So I'm going to share my screen and then we can get started. Okay, so welcome to innovation. And this is the slideshow. So let's get started. Okay, so we're going to start off by talking about what design thinking is. Design thinking is a method that is mainly used for the purpose of comprehending people, questions, problems, and solutions. And its main function is to turn ideas into physical and evaluable products as soon as possible for business. The design thinking framework itself consists of three main things: the three I's, which are immersion, ideation, and implementation. Okay, now let's go over the five different stages of the design thinking process. So, these five stages that I'm about to tell you about are not always followed in a specific order, and they can often occur at the same time and also repeat numerous times. So, the five stages are the following: empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. And you can see that in the picture as well to the right. So for empathize, this means that you basically want to discover your personal target audience for your business and learn more about the audience, such as their problems and their necessities. So you want to be able to put yourself in the person who's buying your product shoes, and that way you can realize what your product needs to hit so that the customers can use them the most effectively. For defining, this is where you want to determine the problem statement and you want to focus on the user's needs, which you got from empathizing. And the problem statement is a guiding tool, so you want to keep that in mind. All right, now for ideating. So you want to collaborate with others who have different areas of expertise. And in this case, you really want quantity over quality. And now for the prototype. So you probably know what a prototype at this point is, and it's going to be basically the rough draft of your product. So you're going to start with something, and that's going to be your prototype. And then over time, you're going to improve it, and you're going to create a product that is you're going to sell to your consumers and customers. The goal here in the prototype, as the slideshow said, is to create a product that can be evaluated and critiqued by yourself and others so that the best product is brought out in the end. And finally, the test. So the test is where users are going to provide feedback that is going to help determine if your solution or your product is viable and if it can work effectively. Now, this saves money in the long term because you won't have to keep making improvements as time goes on after you've already submitted your product to the public. Instead, you'll be able to do that beforehand and then sell it to them, and that way there would be less problems. All right, now we're going to go in detail about the Cloud Innovation Center, or CIC. So, the Cloud Innovation Center creates a chance for nonprofit institutions, education services, and government departments to work with other public sector companies. And they're going to be able to collaborate on issues of high importance. And this can help test issues using Amazon's innovation process. And obviously, like the last slide talked about, testing issues is a really big part of it. Um, you can harness the technology of AWS, and any nonprofit institutions, education services, or government departments too can be able to register to collectively work on an assignment. Now we're going to talk about the culture of innovation. So, this is the culture of innovation at Amazon itself. And if you choose to use AWS, this is going to come in handy for when you're using AWS to help with your product specifically. So, Amazon aims to be the world's most customer centric organization. And by this, they mean they really try to focus on their customers as much as possible so that their product can fit as many people. They do this for four main customer sets: consumers, sellers, enterprises, and content creators. And we have four characteristics of an innovative culture which Amazon personally uses. These four are hiring builders, fail fast, work backwards, and two pizza teams. And I'm going to explain these because some of the names are kind of confusing. So, hiring builders. So, this is where you want to employ people or hire builders with different backgrounds and POVs so you can have different ideas when you're making decisions that go into the creation of your product. Fail fast is important because you want to be able to try all possibilities. And in every business, you want to be accepting of failure because failure helps you be better in general after you learn from your mistakes. Working backwards. So constantly drive customer centric, ingenious thinking. So remember, keep focusing on the customer and make sure that the product is what the customer needs. You want to make sure your product is special and something the customer really wants. And two pizza teams. You want to hire efficient workers in order to minimize communication and unnecessary meetings. Because even though communication and meetings are good, a lot of them can make the whole process very confusing and it can be unnecessary. Amazon calls this characteristic two pizza teams because an innovation team shouldn't need two figurative pizzas, of course, to feed a small and efficient team. So basically, the point of two pizza teams is that you want to have a small team rather than a large one. You want to have a small and efficient team rather than a large and inefficient team. This is important. This is the formula for innovation. For innovation, you need to have a good culture, good people who are working under you. So you want to make sure you employ the best of the best for your specific product and your specific company. And you also need good tools and mechanisms. And as always, as we covered in every slideshow before this, every single video that we pull up here is going to be posted in the description of this live stream once it's ended, and it's going to be labeled as well. So if you want to learn more about certain things, you can watch these videos. Keep in mind, some of them are a bit long, but just in case you wanted to do that, they are there for you. All right, the second part of the slideshow, day two. So we're gonna start off with for day two the five W's of innovation at Amazon. So going more in depth about innovation at Amazon specifically. So maybe you can take some inspiration out of this for your business. So what is innovation? So the definition of innovation is the successful integration of new thoughts into society. Where does innovation take place? It can take place everywhere. And it's important to note that it can range from inventing something to improving it as well. Everybody innovates, and innovation is the way one goes about their work. And when does one innovate? Every day. It's actually more common than you think. It occurs because of ongoing events and unexpected circumstances, which we all face every day. And why innovate? Everything depends on it. When you think about it, even though it might sound a little bit extreme, it is true actually, because innovation creates new opportunities to serve customers and it keeps us moving forward. All right, now let's talk about the models of innovation. So there are two we have here, and there are numerous models which each have their own pros and cons. And a way to categorize these is by separating it across a continuum of continuous and discontinuous. So continuous is where innovation is described as incremental, evolutionary, and reactive, and it's a more linear type change. As you can see in the picture on the right, we have an example of infancy to adulthood. Honestly, obviously, that has nothing to do with this specific topic, but it's a good example for how continuous development and discontinuous development works. You can see that continuous development is a straight line going up, while discontinuous is disruptive, revolutionary, and transformative. So it's non-linear and abrupt changes, more like steps. All right, now let's talk about the innovation process. So the most common process to uphold innovation is known as working backwards. Now, this depends on working deliberately according to the business goal and different shared thoughts. And it's constantly injecting innovation into both independent and teamwork in your business. It requires working backwards from the customer. So again, all the time, putting yourself in the customer's shoes. And the meaning is to constantly come back to the customer's ideas for solving problems. You want to take big note of what the customer is saying about your product. When we talked about critiquing and the users who would be doing that, they would be future customers. So whatever the customer say, you really want to think about that, because that is going to help your product be better for whoever is using it. And also work repetitively while continually reevaluating the problem which is at hand. All right, working intentionally. So this is both intentful and determined at Amazon Web Services, and it siphons their customer obsession into solving a certain conflict for the customer. Organizations work specifically to make sure that their business decisions are orderly managed, and the teams work purposely together. Individual workers take the lead and ownership of their own efforts in order to optimize innovation. And we have two starting places for working intentionally. So the two starting places are the vision and the mental models. The vision is an idea or a vision, of course, of how certain things could be contrasting to how they are currently. So, how things could be changed. What can we do to change these things? And this is not even building the product yet. This is just brainstorming in your head and creating a vision for what that could look like. This contradicts conventional wisdom, and it's rigid on the vision but relaxed on the specifics. So it's more like a general view of what could happen rather than all the specifics, because that obviously comes at a later time once you're ready to develop your product. So, like I said, you could think of the vision and the mental models which we're going to come up with as brainstorming. So, the mental models are basic ideas that act as the base for generating ideas, and they raise ideas from the ground and provide them with superior direction. They're formed as a statement of cause and effect, and they create new ideas. And you can see the three phases of a simplified innovation process on the right. So, conception, implementation, and marketing. For conception, we have requirement analysis, idea generation, idea evaluation, and project planning. And then for implementation, we have development slash construction, the prototype development, pilot application, and testing. And then marketing is when you launch the product, of course. So production and market launch and penetration. So that's national and international, or national or international, depending on your specific product and your specific business. All right, again, more detail about working backwards. So it's made up of the five customer questions, which is who is the customer? Who are you selling it to? What is their problem or opportunity? So like, what are you trying to solve with your product? What is the most important customer benefit of using this? How do you know what the customers want or need? And what does the customer experience look like? What does it look like when they're using it? Is it easy to use? Is it hard to use? These are the kind of things that you need to look at. And the objective of these questions is to maintain the customer's importance and to keep them involved within the innovation process. Another video that's going to be posted in the description.
So my
All right, day 3, working iteratively. So the innovation process becomes iterative, especially during execution. And many ideas never even get past the analysis phase. People call this analysis paralysis. Execution is when an organization chooses to commit to an idea. So execution is when you choose that this is what we're going to do, and there's no turning back from here. As a result, they're going to invest, they're going to hire a leader and a committed team. Successful execution leads to experimentation. And experimentation is the heart of success. However, the research that takes place has to be limited to answering specific questions related to the customers. There are two types of decisions that are covered on this slide: one-way doors and two-way doors. So, one-way doors are decisions that are difficult to return to once they have been made. So, once you've made that decision, there's no really turning back, or if there is turning back, it's very hard to do so. And two-way doors are decisions that are quickly reversible. And these are usually made quickly by superior groups and high-level individuals because they know they can be able to come back to it if anything goes wrong. Okay, where do ideas come from? We have four general places. So the first one is expertise in a beginner's mind. So opening a mind influences perspective and it helps new ideas emerge. You want to prevent personal bias, assumptions, and limitations. Irrational optimism and grit. Ideas that are not commonly accepted shouldn't just be neglected immediately. Resilience is extremely important because it helps one make their good idea a reality, and being misunderstood is not always a bad thing. Next, we have listening and imaging. So the ideas come from visualizing a customer's idea before they can do so themselves. So before a customer can say out loud, "This is what I need," you're already on that and you're already making a product that satisfies that need. You want to get to know your customer, and I've said this countless times, you want to put yourself in their shoes. A great amount of AWS's ideas came from listening to customers. So again, listening to your customers, putting yourself in their position, always important to running a business, no matter what business you're running. And history and science fiction. Ideas come from a combination of failure and success, and they can be inspired from external sources. Now we're going to be talking about what a PRFAQ is. So a PRFAQ stands for Press Release and Frequently Asked Questions, and it's a one-page narrative that describes AWS's vision using customer-centric language. The press release, or PR, is used to envision how the customer is going to react to the product. So it's a prediction, and it helps sort through ideas and ensures that ideas are worthy of putting time into and investing into. And there are certain elements of the PRFAQ. So the PRFAQ is a skill that takes practice to master, and there's something known as a crafting process due to the draft and edit system used. Like writing an essay, there's a crafting process to that. You want to share the plan early for feedback from superiors so that you can improve it. And FAQs are developed to answer questions that a customer may have about a certain product. There are two types, the customer and stakeholder. So the customer one is for the customer. So it's imagining you are the customer and writing questions and answers a real customer would have. So whenever you go to a help section of a website that a company is running, you see recent frequently asked questions. That's what a FAQ is. And basically, that's the company putting themselves in your shoes as a customer and coming up with questions that you would normally ask about the product. Stakeholder FAQ. These are questions that your superiors or partners may ask. And this is to help them better understand what the product is as well, or what you're working on. It's crucial to identify difficult questions early when working backwards and incorporate these as both customer and stakeholder FAQs. All right, now for what is a visual. So a visual is a bit different from a vision. It allows one to explore the customer experience, and it's used to show how the customers are going to use the product and how they want to use it. Again, predicting what the customer is going to be like when they use the product. And as the project matures, the visual can become more detailed. Just like the vision, it's relaxed on the specifics but rigid on the general idea. Visual presentation is how pictures, images, and diagrams express ideas, and it maximizes the effectiveness of a presentation. Another video that's going to be posted in the description. All right, now we're on to day 4, the example of a visual. So this is a scenario that is built into a comic of a visual. So it starts off with a man who says, "Today I need to go to the municipality to issue the address proof certificate." And this is the customer who has questions about the address proof certificate and is going to use a product. So this is where you want to think about what the problem looks like and what the customer looks like before they use your product. Now the customer goes to visit the MUN, but because of the virus, he isn't allowed. So he says, due to COVID-19 precautionary measures, most of the service should be applied online. Now he's wondering how he can do that. So he did read that there is a new chatbot service in the news. That's important, obviously, marketing your product. So now, because he knows that, I remember that I read in the news about municipality new chatbot service. So now he's going on to the website. So access a chatbot service. That's the next slide. So now he goes to the website and tries to get help from the chatbot. Now he collects the certificates and prints. And now he's satisfied with the product because he thought it was easy to use. And he got his certificate while staying at home. So it's easy access, the product is easy to use, and it was quick for him to do so. So the system is obviously working and providing great input. Because of this, the customer is happy and satisfied. Now we're going to talk about Amazon leadership principles. So these have been incorporated in Amazon, not just AWS, since 2002. And it explains how Amazon conducts business and how leaders manage. It also talks about how decisions are formed for customers. So there are 17 leadership principles. We're going to go through all of them. So I'm going to list them out for you. It starts with customer obsession, then it goes ownership, invent and simplify, all right a lot, learn and be curious, hire and develop the best, deliver results, insist on the highest standards, think big, rise for action, frugality, earn trust, dive deep, have a backbone, disagree and commit, deliver results, try to be the greatest employer, and success and scope bring great responsibility. All right, so customer obsession and ownership. Obviously, being obsessed with the customer is very important. Customer obsession leaders begin with consumers and work backwards, and they work diligently to maintain the customer trust. They also focus on customers and keep competition under a close eye as well. And the skills required are humility and empathy. So, ownership. The leaders are equal to the owners, and they have to plan for the future, and they shouldn't sacrifice the future for immediate gain. Patience is a big thing when running businesses, especially big businesses. They need to represent the entire company and take the initiative to help out. The skills required are persistence and integrity. A quote from the Amazon founder and CEO Jeff Bezos is that the number one thing that has made it successful by far is obsessive compulsive focus on the customer. Again, being obsessed with the customer is extremely important because you can then make the product that fits their needs the best. All right, invent and simplify and all right a lot. So invent and simplify is where workers are required to provide innovation and invention to their work. They always work to simplify matters, and leaders are constantly searching for new and innovative ideas. The skills required for this are diligence, flexibility, and the ability to be misunderstood. Because as we talked about, being misunderstood is not always a negative and can end up being a good thing. Next, we have all right a lot. So leaders have good judgment and intuition, and they look for different perspectives and work to disprove beliefs. The skills required for this are humility and optimism. Another video. All right, now day 5. Learn and be curious and hire and develop the best. So just keep going on those 17 principles. So learn and be curious. Leaders are never satisfied and always look to improve themselves. They're curious about new opportunities, and the skills needed for this are learning and conscientious or being diligent. Hiring and developing the best. So this is where you want to acknowledge outstanding work and willingly promote people. Sorry. And leaders create other leaders and seriously consider their coaching of others. So the skills required for this are the courage and ability to invest. Deliver results and insisting on the highest standards. So for delivering results, you want to key in on main suggestions and despite the problems, persevere and never settle. The skills required for this are commitment and the ability to deliver. Insisting on the high standards, so leaders should have incredibly high standards and should constantly be looking for more um, and constantly be motivating their team to produce superb products. Skills required for this are the ability to be exceptional and uncompromised. Thinking big and biasing for action. So, thinking big leaders encourage broad thinking and they encourage ambition across the working place at all times. The skills required for this are the ability to be innovative and optimistic. And biasing for action. Speed is very important in business. Calculated risk taking is a valuable skill, and the skills required for this are risk taking and speed. Just starting a business is a big risk. So, um, risk taking is obviously very big in business and should the leader should be really good with doing it. Frugality and earning trust. So, frugality is maximizing spending efficiency, and limits lead to resourcefulness and clever thinking. And the skills required are creativity and adaptability. And earning trust is how leaders should listen, speak, and treat others respectfully to earn their employees' trust. And they should know that their employees are not perfect. The skills required for this are trust and honesty. Dive deep and have a backbone. So, for diving deep, leaders should conduct business at all levels and should be up to date on all details. They should be expected to push through any problem that they may face as no task is under them. And the skills required for this are the ability to be detail oriented and demystifying. And having a backbone and disagreeing and committing, leaders can make tough decisions. They have to in big businesses, as we know. So, they should have a strong view and should be ruthless when they need to be. The skills required for this are conviction and cohesion and then delivering results and trying to be the best employer possible. So for delivering results, they should be viewed as employees as a highly important principle, and they should be rising to the occasion and being a leader. They should deliver results for certain products, and they should take responsibility for ideas that you have created for a product or that they have created for a product. And you should take responsibility for the ideas that you have created for a product and trying to be the best employer possible. You want to be a leader that has the objective of making your work environment as cooperative and safe as can be. Employees have to be able to share ideas respectfully with others, and employers must make sure that employees are growing, empathized for, empowered, and obviously ready for what is next and what is in the future. And finally, success and scope bring great responsibility. The size of a company matters, and this is because it gives them power over consumers. Look at Amazon, it's one of the largest companies on planet Earth, and it empowers customers, it gives power to the commander of the company, and helps the company expand beyond its size at the moment, even though it's huge already. And that is it for innovation. Thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm gonna post the videos in the description of the live stream in a few minutes. And I will see you next week.